Okay, hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our special University of Manitoba Homecoming Week event. We are celebrating a really important benchmark for the Department of Biosystems Engineering. It is the 50th anniversary of the presentation of the first bachelor's degree, formerly in agricultural engineering, now in biosystems engineering. And for those of you who don't know, biosystems engineering is a unique department, which is part of both the Price Faculty of Engineering and the Faculty of Agricultural and Food Sciences. My name is Nazim Chichek. I'm a professor in the department, and I'm also the Associate Dean Research for the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences, and I will be your host for today's event. So I'd like to start by taking a moment to share with you a territory acknowledgement that honors the land on which the University of Manitoba is situated.
University of Manitoba campuses
are located on the original lands
of Anishinaabe,
Cree,
Ojibwe,
Dakota,
and Dene peoples,
and on the homeland of the Métis Nation.
We respect the treaties that were made on these territories.
We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past.
And we dedicate ourselves to move forward
in partnership with Indigenous communities,
in the spirit of reconciliation
and collaboration.
So you may be watching us today on either our YouTube or Facebook channels, and we invite you to share comments with the community through these channels. I'm really pleased to host a number of special guests for today's event. In a moment, we will be joined by several of our notable alumni for a fireside chat discussion about biosystems engineering, its history at the University of Manitoba, its impact on their lives, and where we are going in the future. And later in the program, we will be presenting the inaugural Alumni of Influence Awards to some very deserving graduates of our program. These awards, launched this year to mark the 50th celebration, are there to recognize the recipients' engineering achievements and their service to their communities. So I'm really excited to be presenting these awards to 5 very accomplished alumni. So let's begin. I'm pleased to be joined by 3 people whose names you may be very familiar with. I will introduce them one by one. Dr. Marcia Friesen is the current Dean of the Price Faculty of Engineering and the NSERC Chair in Design Engineering. She received her undergraduate and graduate training in Biosystems Engineering, earning a PhD in 2009. She's a professor in the Price Faculty who has been deeply engaged with students and is committed to their success and to the success of our profession. So thank you for joining us today, Marcia. After graduation in 2006, Diana Nicholson has worked in a variety of roles related to biosystems engineering and water sanitation at Sampson Engineering, AECOM, Doctors Without Borders, Nelson River Construction, and currently as Director of Engineering with Cypher Environmental Limited. Diana was named University of Manitoba's Outstanding Young Alumni Award winner in 2016 in recognition of her work to bring clean water and sanitation, along with hope and dignity, to Chad, South Sudan, Central African Republic, and Sierra Leone. So hello, Diana.
Hello.
And Dr. Danny Mann received his undergraduate training from the Department of Biosystems Engineering. Danny has been a faculty member in our department since he graduated in 1998 and has pursued research interests in agricultural safety technologies. He has served as a committed department head for the past 12 years and has been a leader in his professional community. So welcome, Dan.
Hi, Nazim.
So I'd like to go around the group and ask each of you to share with us a bit of background, specifically how a degree in our department in Biosystems Engineering at the U of M have helped shape your career. So maybe we can start with Marcia.
Thank you, Nazim, and it's nice to see Danny and Diana too. And thank you everybody for joining us today. So how has a degree in biosystems engineering helped shape my career? Well, my original motivation to choose at the time agricultural engineering from all the disciplines available at the University of Manitoba was because I thought I would go into overseas development work. And at the time, that came out of sort of a family history and family values in my family of origin. And that degree seemed to be a really good opportunity to be prepared for that. But things did turn out a little bit differently. I ended up working locally in Manitoba in the environmental consulting services field and the agricultural consulting services field. And so I built private sector experience before coming back to a career in academia. But they were in industries that were very relevant to Manitoba and that also relevant to our future issues regarding the environment. But in some ways, I've often thought that there's a certain ambiguity around what an agricultural or what a biosystems engineer does. And having to really reflect on that identity continuously has been useful because that self reflection and self assessment really asks one to critically reflect on what it is that one wants to do and how to get there. So having to explain that over and over is actually a good exercise, a good personal exercise. And it also abstracts away from the degree itself and it forces one to think about where one wants to go and what sort of contributions one wants to make. And that building those qualifications and going down that path is larger than the degree. But certainly at the core of that is was for me the agricultural, now biosystems engineering degree.
Great. Diana, did you want to take your turn next? Again, the question is really a little bit of your background and what part of your degree has been most important for you in terms of shaping your career.
Certainly. So I often tell people that an engineering degree is your ticket to anywhere. And I really found that particularly with the Biosystems Engineering Program, because it's such a diverse program that covers several topics that are all connected, but all still very different. And this allowed me to pursue a very diverse career path. So I've had several different careers already in my life. Originally, I was working as a consulting engineer in environmental, water and wastewater type of work. From then on, I went into humanitarian work with Doctors Without Borders. And like Marcia, that was really kind of my main motivation for pursuing a biosystems degree, was to be able to work in underdeveloped countries in emergency contexts and, really make a difference with water and hygiene and sanitation. After that, I worked with Nelson River Construction, a heavy civil contractor building roads and highways in Winnipeg and in Manitoba. And I'm currently working for Cypher Environmental as the Director of Engineering, and we make environmentally friendly road stabilizers and dust suppressants. So in my relatively short career already, I've had several different experiences. And again, that's really reflective of the Biosystems program. We really learn how to be adaptable, how to learn quickly, and how to apply our skills in a wide range of topics. So for me, it's really been a ticket to anywhere, and literally anywhere in the world.
Right, that's fantastic. Danny, did you want to provide some comments?
Sure. So, I grew up as a farm boy in Manitoba, and decided that agricultural engineering seemed like a very logical departmental choice for me. I remember going through the program and intending that I would be a designer of agricultural machinery. And that was my first job after completing my bachelor's degree. But one of the things that I very quickly realized is that there was a bit of a kind of a conflict, a personal conflict in terms of the industry perspective of generating a product that would maximize profit versus a desire to be using my engineering knowledge in a way that was perhaps more generally beneficial to society. And so my career as an ag machinery designer didn't last very long until I realized, okay, I'm gonna go a different direction. And from that very short departure from the university, I've essentially never left campus, or in fact the department. I ended up coming back and doing a master's and ultimately doing a PhD, and then being fortunate enough to be hired in the same department. And I think that really my knowledge and experience as both an undergraduate student, then as a graduate student, have greatly benefited my ability to provide leadership to the department. And one of the things that maybe just to add to this, I really see that my job is a lot of problem solving, and engineers are sort of widely recognized as having a unique way of approaching problems. And I've benefited from the perspective, this problem solving perspective that I gained as being a student in the program, but also that I observed from my professors when I was going through the program. And just one little anecdote or story that has always kind of stuck with me. There were some of my professors that probably more so when I was a graduate student. This the timeline probably coincides with that. But they were trying to pursue new and innovative ideas, and they would come up with roadblocks. People at the university telling them, no, you can't do that. And what I observed was that they didn't really accept no as an acceptable response. They were willing to go back and take 2 steps back, come up with an alternative way to try to proceed forward. And that was something that I learned to admire, and I think hopefully something that I've also tried to employ in my time as being a leader in the department.
That's great, and you can clearly see there is a general sense of that the degree is there for you to pursue your dreams and make an impact the way you see yourself doing. And I think that's fantastic. It seems to be reflected in all of your backgrounds and experiences. So that's really inspiring. So if you had to pick a particular individual skill that you got through the degree, and feel free to expand on that as you see fit, that really proved useful in your day-to-day life, as whether that's at home or at work. What would that be? Maybe we'll start in the opposite direction this time and let Danny go first. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so I gave some thought to this, and I think that sort of consistent with the advice or the guidance that we give to our current students, I really think that skills such as teamwork and communication are some of the sort of the soft skills, the non-technical skills that I gained a great appreciation for during my program. On the teamwork side of things, when I started as a second-year student, there were 7 of us. So it's greatly different than it is today with 53 students in second year. And what I found was that, the 7 of us, we did everything together. We arrived at the lounge about 8 o'clock every morning. We hung out until the first class, and we moved to from class to class, and everything was done as a cohort. And that sense of teamwork, I think, is something that was really instilled in us from, in that very informal way, which, I think we still see that. And I've certainly tried to engage in that type of activity, whether it's co-teaching courses or whether it's, bringing in people from different backgrounds to co-supervise graduate students and that collaboration part. Second thing, communication skills, going back to high school, the worst possible thing any professor or any teacher could tell me was that you've got to do an oral presentation on such and such a topic. And where did I end up? In a career where I give lectures every day. And I can think back to, as an undergraduate student, and the many different opportunities that we had to get up in front of the class and to practice those communication skills. I by no means a stellar lecturer or great public speaker, but it's certainly developed those skills that have enabled me to be a successful professor.
Great. Diana?
Well, I should have maybe discussed with Dr. Mann before this, because that's basically exactly what I was going to say. The collaboration that is just hand in hand with the Biosystems program. Like Dr. Mann, my class was quite small. We did everything together, and with that small class size, you really get to interact with the professors, you get to interact with industry experts, and it really teaches you to be comfortable with speaking to people of authority or experts in the field, and developing that technical language to further your career once you're out into the working world. Communication skills, again, technical writing has been a big one for me. There's a lot of report writing and, like Dr. Mann said, oral presentations required. And I use my technical writing every day, and in every different career that I've had already, it's been a huge part of my advancement. And you really need to be able to communicate with different audiences and to be able to explain in layman's terms or in technical terms what you're doing and what goals you're trying to achieve. So those are kind of the main ones that I have taken with me as well.
Great. I think I see a common theme emerging.
I would just say only slightly tongue-in-cheek that touch typing is a skill that has been proven very useful, although there I have to give a nod to a high school teacher, not the curriculum, but touch typing for me has proven to really support efficiency and productivity. I think the biosystems degree does foster everything Danny and Diana have talked about, as well as organization and time management. But I think in general, engineering degrees foster critical thought and analysis, the ability or a level of comfort eventually in not welcoming necessarily, but of comfort with complexity and complex projects, and understanding that you can break them down into smaller pieces and they'll progress step by step. And you don't have to see the end point. You just have to take one step, and that will illuminate what your next step will be. So those are some what I call professional skills around analysis and critical thinking and organization and time management. But I think the degree also instills certain values. One of those is that, for example, in complexity and complex projects, that dead ends are meaningful. Dead ends are information, and dead ends are progress. And they also deserve attention in terms of what didn't work and what you can learn from them. And then I think in the pandemic, I've reflected a lot on what scientific literacy and what numeracy means, and how the degree supports an appreciation for that. So how do you evaluate information, and how do you assess the credibility of information? I think engineering degrees and the biosystems degree certainly supports those skills that I think are useful for all of us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think these are very telling times of the value of science and how people access information. So a degree in engineering and in our department certainly hopefully helps that in a positive way. So moving on to maybe a bit more of a general topic, and that relates to how you see challenges in engineering or in STEM education generally that you see in front of you, and opportunities that you see in both. So if you could address that from your perspective, maybe we can start with Diana this time. Where do you see the major opportunities and challenges in engineering?
So for me in general, it's 2021, but we're still seeing some issues with diversity coming up in engineering and in the STEM field in general. So disproportionate representation based on gender, race, low-income populations. I think that's, a very relevant and challenge, and there are a lot of programs that the university and EGM have been implementing to try and change some of that. But for me, the answer is always just more. We need to really make sure we have a representative population studying and giving their skills to the industry, because that just helps us all, having different perspectives and different backgrounds and different skill sets. We all benefit from those opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
Well said. And it will lead into my next questions, but I'll try to stick to the topic at hand. Major challenges, opportunities, Danny, from your end. How do you see those?
Yeah, in challenges, I think that one of the areas that the engineering profession still suffers from is a a lack of appreciation perhaps from in general from the public compared to some of the other professions. And I mean, certainly in the last year and a half, I mean, I think we all have great appreciation for the medical profession, and like, I'm not suggesting that other professions should be brought down in any way, but I think there's opportunity for the profession of engineering to be elevated, and perhaps that involves more of us as engineers taking public leadership positions. Not that I'm necessarily wanting to volunteer for something like that, but it is a way in terms of getting the general public to understand the problem solving and the type of approach to problems that engineers typically bring. So I mean, that's a challenge. I mean, think in terms of opportunities. I look at the great challenges, global challenges that lie ahead of us in terms of global warming and being able to feed a population that's growing at this tremendous rate. And I think that engineers and biosystems engineers in particular are particularly well equipped to become very prominent leaders in some of this work, because of the fact that we tend to think at a system level, at the broader perspective level, which is it's important to for these problems. They're not pinpoint tiny little problems that at the end of the pencil on the paper. You've got to be able to step back and see the big picture and be able to interact with people from different disciplines, and that's something that has always been very it's been demonstrated by people in our professors and so forth, and I think it's a real opportunity going forward for our discipline to take a real leadership role.
Thanks, Danny. Marcia, did you want to also provide some comments?
Sure. Just in a way, picking up from what Danny was just talking about, I think, like always, we're always playing catch up, right? We educate for the present because it's not really possible to know what the future state is going to be. So it's not entirely possible to educate toward a future state. It's a bit like parenting. If you have a chance to influence the life of a child, you're influencing them for hopefully to not your own past childhood, but the childhood they're living or the youthhood that they're living, because it's really difficult to predict the world they're going to come into as much as we'd like to. So, collectively, I agree with Danny. We're living in an intersectionality of professions and wicked problems. And so collectively, we have issues of climate, which lead to further issues about equity in education, in food security, and access to water, equity and access to healthcare, and so on. And so this is where you really see technical feasibility intersecting with political feasibility. So just because something is technically feasible doesn't mean that we're making it happen. And if any of you read The Onion, which is a satirical news source, there's this really great one frame comic where it says that scientists remind the world that clean energy is ready to go anytime we are, and it highlights that that technical feasibility and political feasibility don't always align. So engineers increasingly have to engage with the ideas or the actions around good governance and good policy. And I think that goes to what Danny said about elevating the profession into a more public sphere. And then I also see that we're speaking increasingly about the engagement of ethics and the ethics of technology. So how does technology inherently support equity or perpetuate bias? And that's become a larger topic that it's good to see us discussing.
Great. And I think that those comments lead us right into the next topic, and also in line with what Diana had mentioned, that goes to diversity within our profession. If I could get your comments on how you see us improving it on that file, becoming more inclusive and more representative. Where do you see that going? Maybe we'll start with Marcia.
Sure. And that is itself an example of a wicked problem, right? If there was a patent for the solution, that person would be quite wealthy. But when I think about that and, having lived a career as an engineer, as a female engineer, and women are underrepresented, I've ended up thinking about it in a million different ways over the years. And where I currently sort of have my thoughts is about abstracting away from representation, abstracting away from like counting how many women we have or how many Indigenous students we have or how many LGBTQ identifying students we have, and looking at it rather as an issue of belonging. Do people come and what I call like white knuckle your way through the profession or the degree, and tolerate, or do they really feel like these are my people and this is my place? And that's what we really need to have. We really need to create that sense that these are my people and this is my place. And part of that is seeing others that are like you. And I remember when we unveiled the Women in Engineering wall, it was so interesting to me that I had been skeptical of its value, frankly. And when I saw it being unveiled, and then over that afternoon, as there was the wine and cheese in the atrium, I saw young women going to the wall and looking at the list of graduates to find their names. And I was struck by how powerful that was, this idea of seeing yourself, in that case, very literally there. So when I think about diversity, I think we really have to engage with the variety of motivations for which people come to an engineering degree. It could be a technical motivation because they love technology. It could be a social development motivation. It could be a creative artistic motivation, and it could be so much more. And I want to encourage positive questions. So instead of sort of a gap-driven view of what we don't have, a more to reframe that, to ask, to imagine what would the profession look like at its very best? Who would be in it, and what would we be doing, and what would we be accomplishing? So to develop a really positive vision, and then to ask ourselves how to get there. And that it's a profession of almost unlimited pathways and opportunities. And if we can highlight that for prospective students, I think that would be powerful too.
Great. Yeah, very, very important words and sentiments. So maybe Danny can also present his views on that.
Sure, and I suppose when I was thinking about this particular question, I was thinking of it from within the context of the department, probably more so than the entire profession. And we have a long history already, actually, of having essentially a gender balance within our undergraduate program. And to the extent that I sometimes stop thinking about that as being one of the challenges of the profession, because we've had that gender balance within the classroom, and I just gotten accustomed just to thinking of what is it that is needed by our students, and not necessarily thinking about differentiating the groups of the students. So that the other perspective that certainly from a department, we have not had a very strong record of recruiting Indigenous students into the program, and that is something that still is I think a challenge for us going forward. One of the we're certainly hoping in the months ahead to be able to be hiring an Indigenous instructor in the department, someone that can bring in some expertise and help maybe to attract more students into our program, but also maybe equally important or more important perhaps is to help us, the rest of us that are not Indigenous, to gain a better understanding of Indigenous issues, whether it applies to engineering or to just life in general, being a citizen of the country in general. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity and the the potential that can make our program.
Great, thanks. And Diana, you had mentioned this already as a challenge that the engineering profession should address its diversity and how it represents the greater public in general. But maybe you want to add to your comments a little bit, and obviously you have a lived experience yourself, so please feel free to expand on it.
Thank you. I feel really strongly in line with the comments that Marcia made. She gave a very thorough and very, I think, a really great way to approach the issue of, rather than looking at the gaps, as she said, looking at, how would we be if we were operating at our best. And when she spoke about belonging, that really struck home for me, because when I was in school, I didn't really feel like I belonged, to be honest. Within the biosystems department, like Dr. Mann was saying, it's a little bit different. It's smaller. It does tend to attract more of a balanced population, but within the engineering population in general, I really didn't fit in. I didn't, the line of work that I was heading for wasn't typical. It was an interesting experience for me, and then in my career, again, there wasn't many of me out there, so not being able to see what I wanted to become and having to kind of forge the way. I think for a lot of grade school students or high school students, seeing what's possible makes a huge difference. Not even knowing what opportunities are out there within the profession. I think there's some great opportunities for some, advertising campaigns or which, have been done in the past, like, what an engineer is, what we do, but, having a broad representation of the type of people also, I think is really helpful. I also liked what Dr. Mann was saying about, incorporating Indigenous perspectives and maybe incorporating some kind of a class or a workshop where, it's led by, minority populations, so that their perspective is brought to the front, and, everyone else can really learn and experience or have an idea of the challenges that are faced, and just open our minds a little bit to other perspectives and other experiences other than our own. I think that would be very valuable within the department and within the profession in general.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail on the head there. We are doing some of that, but we are certainly a long ways from getting where we need to go. So we all need to strive towards a more inclusive environment and understanding others. Maybe we can wrap up our discussion with a final question, maybe a more of a blue sky discussion on where you see the profession heading. And that might be something specific to biosystems or more general. So Danny, would you like to start us off there?
Sure, and I again, I looked at this question and I framed my response in terms of a departmental perspective. I've just come off a year of sabbatical where I spent a good chunk of that time thinking and putting together a strategic plan for the department, and I do see that there's a very bright future ahead for this discipline, for this department. We talked about some of the wicked problems previously that I think that the type of approach to problem solving that we typically develop with our students, and we tend to attract students that have that kind of passion to begin with. So it's easy to to just support them and keep them moving along that direction. We're certainly we've initiated a process of curriculum renewal with the intent of, I mean, some of the courses are still the same as when I was an undergraduate student, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're the wrong courses, but it does suggest that we should at least be looking to see if there's any modernization that should be taking place. And so that is something that we are going to be undertaking in the next couple of years, that I think, or I hope, will do an even better job of preparing engineers for the types of problems that are ahead of us on the horizon. We're looking at at the graduate program, we're trying to do some innovative things there as well with promoting more of a course-based Master of Engineering program, which we've already seen an influx of internationally educated engineers that apply to this program, and we're trying to work with industry and be able to link those individuals with jobs in the province once they're finished. And even at the PhD level, we've endorsed a graduate specialization in engineering education. We certainly value the individuals that really understand and do research in the area of engineering education, and helping to promote that, the careers of those individuals. But we get the spin-off benefit within the department as well, as we experience and we learn along with what these individuals are doing. So I think there's a lot of really good days ahead. I made that brief mention before that I started, there were 7 of us in the second year class. Now we're consistently attracting 48, 50 students, and that number may even be going up with plans for enrollment increase in the future. And so as a department, it's vastly different than it was 25 years ago, and it's changing for the better. And I think we're on a very good trajectory.
Thanks, Danny. Diana, did I get your comments maybe on just quickly on ways to the profession going in your mind?
Sure. Sorry. So from my perspective, when I think about the future and what's coming, it's just a giant question mark. It's impossible to predict. We've talked about some of the main problems: climate change, food security, things like that. But I think what's really exciting about that big question mark is that the profession and biosystems in particular, like we've talked about, are producing students and graduates that have the skills to be able to tackle that question mark, to be able to approach it. A lot of the topics we've already talked about, from a bigger perspective, troubleshooting, fostering that creativity, that willing to take on challenges, and I just think we're poised to be able to handle whatever comes flying at us, just because of the type of skills we're learning through the program, and it's really exciting to me.
Yeah, great. I mean, I tell my kids that all the time: with problems comes opportunity, and a lot of fun as well. Marcia, can I get your final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel a bit sheepish. I think I gave you all my best ideas on an earlier question there, but I certainly affirm everything Diana and Danny already said. I think for the profession, we're living in a time of uncertainty, big question marks ahead. And somebody once said, I don't know if it was attributed properly to Einstein or not, but the saying goes that the problems of today can't be solved with the level of thinking with which they were created, implying that they require a more nuanced and complex type of thought. And so I just go back to the intersectionality of professions that have to come together to think through the technical and the political and the regulatory and the ethical and the social and the legal and the historical aspects of how we're going to address the situations that we're facing. And I agree with Danny that the Department of Biosystems Engineering is an excellent place to start preparing people for that journey and for that pathway. There were 11 of us when I went through in my cohorts, a few years after Danny, but really not many. I got to know him at that time already. And it certainly has grown so much. And it's such a positive, diverse, and energetic place to be. I'm so pleased that it's continues to be such a strength in the Price Faculty of Engineering.
Well, thanks, Marcia, and thanks to you all. This has been just a fantastic discussion, and I'd like to thank you one more time for sharing your time with us today. I certainly appreciate your insights, and I hope we can get this conversation broadened out and keep it going with our alumni and with our professional community. So thank you. We will now move forward with our program to our awards portion. But before I do that, I just want to note that we have people participating in this session all the way from New Zealand to Hong Kong to parts of the US and all over Winnipeg. So welcome everybody, and I'm glad you're joining us today. It's exciting to see so many interested parties taking part in this. All right, so as I mentioned before, this year marks the 50th anniversary of our first bachelor's degree that we had presented in agricultural engineering, which is obviously now Biosystems Engineering. And the department decided to commemorate this milestone with the presentation of the Alumni of Influence Awards. Now, today's recipients have been selected on criteria that consider a number of things like engineering achievements, including exceptional leadership in that area, also how they have positively impacted the profession at the local, national, or even international level, as well as their contributions to their communities. So we decided to separate these awards on the basis of the graduates prior to 1995 in agricultural engineering, so whether they are undergraduate graduates, if you like, or earned a postgraduate degree, and those who graduated after 1995 as biosystems engineers. So before I move on, I really want to thank everybody who nominated these candidates for these awards. I know you have spent a time and effort to recognize your colleagues. This is very much appreciated. And without your initiative, we would not have had such an amazing slate of very worthy nominees to choose from. And the committee that I was able to chair, the awards committee that looked at all of these nominations, really had a very difficult time selecting winners. We had so many outstanding candidates. So all of those nominated were phenomenal representatives of our profession, whether they're in agricultural biosystems engineering. Okay, so without further ado, I will begin with the presentation of the Alumni of Influence Award in the undergraduate pre-1995 category. And the winner of this award is Jerry Cousin. So I will introduce Jerry briefly here. Jerry was a graduate of the first class of the University of Manitoba Agricultural Engineering Program in 1971. Jerry has worked for various organizations such as the Manitoba Development Corporation, the Manitoba Department of Agriculture Rural Water Projects, and the Prairie Agriculture Machinery Institute. In 1981, Jerry founded an award-winning consulting firm, J.R. Cousin Consulting Limited, where he helped to advance the careers of many young engineers coming out of the University of Manitoba. Jerry also worked with over 50 First Nations, numerous rural municipalities, towns, villages, and cities in Manitoba, Ontario, and Saskatchewan. And over the years, his projects have included improvements to water and wastewater treatment facilities and development plans, helping communities to thrive and accommodate growing populations. Jerry is an active member of his community and has contributed to various committees and engineering organizations and associations. Congratulations, Jerry. I would like to invite you now to say a few words.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be a recipient of the first Biosystems Engineering Alumni Influence Award. Firstly, I wish to thank the Alumni Awards Committee for selecting me for this prestigious Alumni Influence Award, and a great thanks to the staff of J.R. Cousin Consultants for nominating me. I also wish to thank my wife and my family for all their support over the years. It all started about 53 years ago with Dr. Garland of Liberty, who I'd like to give a great thanks to. He persuaded me at the start of second engineering to take agricultural engineering. It was my very first year that agricultural engineering was offered. There were 4 students that were enrolled. We had excellent professors in the discipline of agricultural engineering, to name a few: Dr. Garland of Liberty, Dr. Jim Thompson, Dr. Bill Muir, Dr. Buchanan, and later Dr. Ron Britton. We also took courses in other engineering disciplines, which broadened our area of knowledge in mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and then also in the Faculty of Science and Agriculture. 50 years ago, on May 1971, I graduated, worked for the Manitoba government for 10 years, and then started the engineering consulting company, J.R. Cousin Consultants, from which I never looked back. Over the years, as an employer, I was given the opportunity to provide constructive comments on agricultural engineering and later the biosystems engineering curriculum. As past president of J.R. Cousin Consultants, I wish to thank the Faculty of Biosystems Engineering for the yearly achievement of producing accomplished graduates, which has given J.R. Cousin Consultants the opportunity to hire graduates with good engineering abilities. Again, thank you for the award.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry. We really appreciate your comments. Next, we have the Alumni of Influence Award in the undergraduate category for post-1995. So those that graduated with a biosystems degree. And the winner for this award is Martin Petrak. So after Martin, I do get a little bit of feedback. Okay, that's perfect. I'm just going to introduce you a little bit, and then certainly you'll have a chance to comment. So after graduating from Biosystems Engineering in 2002, Martin began his career as a medical research engineer, integrating specialized medical imaging technology to Manitoba from Europe. Martin now focuses on executive leadership as the president and CEO of the Orthopedic Innovation Center and as the co-founder and CEO of Precision ADM Group of companies in Winnipeg, which is focused on advanced manufacturing in the medical and aerospace sectors. Martin holds several patents and trademarks, including drug-eluting 3D printed polymers to treat arthroplasty infections. Martin has led his company's growth through advancement of domestic production of PPE to all Canadians. Martin is most proud of building a talented team to design and manufacture millions of Canada's first 3D printed nasopharyngeal swabs for COVID-19 testing, while developing a reusable and recyclable medical respirator manufactured in Manitoba for Canadian frontline healthcare providers. So congratulations, Martin. I invite you to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Nazim. And I want to first of all thank the again the awards committee and the nominations, because we don't do this for awards. Engineers do this because they're trying to help the public. And I think that this is again I'm very humbled by this award. The fact that we have the ability to share in this experience with others across the world makes us obviously a lot more important for us. I apologize. I happen to be in a public area right now, but I first want to thank the other panelists today, because some of the things that they mentioned were really important and echoes a lot of the things that I've done and tried to work on throughout my career, right? And leadership is one of the things that Biosystems taught us. The design trilogy was really important to us. How to work in teams, regardless of where you came from. You had to figure out how to come up with a solution relatively quickly because there were deadlines. And I think that a lot of the things that we learned as biosystems engineers in a diverse background, I had to apply it to my career day in and day out, from clinical research activities to manufacturing titanium spine implants to exoskeletons for defense military personnel to PPE for frontline workers. All of those things were extremely important, but that diverse background that we had as biosystems engineers actually really helped us and helped my team. And honestly, we've hired many biosystems engineers that have come leaders in their own right. And you see the talent that comes, both a diverse talent that comes out of biosystems engineers. So I just want to give Dr. Mann credit. Nazim, you've done an amazing job. The team is still growing. That biosystems department is so impressive. I've seen that happen over the last 20 years. So I'm very fortunate to have graduated from that program. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for this award. And I just wanted to say, keep on doing the strong work that you guys are doing there, because the world needs more biosystems engineers, put it that way. And we're very excited to adopt as many biosystems in a diverse group that we do have in biosystems. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thanks. Very much appreciate your comments, and congratulations again. Okay, next we have the Alumni of Influence Award in the graduate category. This goes to pre-1995, so as agricultural engineers. And the winner for this category is Dr. Alagusundaram Karupia. Welcome, Dr. Alagu. I will just quickly read a very extensive CV that I have to shorten, so I apologize if I forgot a few things, but I wanted to make sure I introduce you as best I can. So Dr. Alagu obtained his undergraduate degree in agricultural engineering from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University in India, his MEng degree in farm mechanization from Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand, and his master's and PhD degrees from the Department of Biosystems Engineering at the University of Manitoba. At that point, it was still agricultural engineering. He served as a professor of agricultural engineering in Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, India, for nearly 15 years, during which time Dr. Alagu taught agricultural engineering subjects to more than 1,500 students and mentored many of his students for their professional growth, leading to successful careers. Dr. Alagu is heading the agricultural engineering research system in India by serving as the Deputy Director General in the Indian Council of Agricultural Research since 2016. In this capacity, he's holding responsibilities of prioritizing research in 22 nationally important institutes and 28 all-India coordinated network research projects, which function out of nearly 600 centers in the entire country. Congratulations, Dr. Alagusundaram. I invite you to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Nazim Sisek. And first of all, I must thank the committee for selecting me for this Alumni of Influence Award. And I must also thank Dr. Degvir JS for nominating me for this award. I am very glad this award is going to be very, the pinnacle of my achievement, and it's going to help me a lot in my future career also. And I have been listening, Diana, Marcia, yourself, and Dr. Mon. Danny Mon, hello, Dr. Mon. When I was a PhD student, he was an undergraduate student at that time. It's good to see all of you. And you were all talking about gender issues in agricultural engineering. Or in India, it is called agri-engineering. In Canada or US, it is biosystems. In agri-engineering or agriculture degrees, in India, for example, I'm appearing from India. Now it is 1:20 a.m. for me.
Thank you.
70 to 75% of the undergraduate students are women. That's the status here. So the gender issues are changing over. There are more number of women in agriculture degrees than the boys. So meaning that gender issues are turning up. So it's not a very serious matter. A lot of women will come into agriculture profession in a very short time. There will be a lot of professors, a lot of professionals in agriculture related things. And another issue that you were all talking, I was watching, was the importance of biosystems engineering. I just mentioned one small point and then close it there. Let me speak for 1 minute.
Sure.
I am working in New Delhi. In New Delhi, India, in October, November, December, these are the 3 months in which we call smog. Smog means smoke and fog. It's entirely the entire the area, the atmosphere is full of smoke. Why? Because of vehicle pollution, because of other pollution from construction industry, and majorly because there were 2 crops in Punjab, Haryana. They are close to New Delhi. They grow 2 crops, rice and wheat. Between rice and wheat, there is a very short time. The farmers burn the rice straw in the field. That smoke goes on the atmosphere and then entirely pollute the whole thing. That's the situation. How biosystems engineering come into play? We offered a solution about 4 years ago, only 4 years ago. Mechanical solution for in situ crop residue management, for plowing, for seeding and growing wheat crop without burning rice straw. This was taken up by the government of India at a cost of, I don't know, I cannot tell you in Canadian dollar terms, It's a very huge project. For 3 years, this project ran. End of the three years, between 2017 and 2020, the number of crop residue burning incidences have gone down by 52%. That is a success of the biosystems engineering in this country. So we are placing our importance in this country, in India, a lot. And Animan very clearly mentioned that without it, he was talking about medical profession and all that. Medical and everything is there, but mechanization and food processing are very, very important for this country. Thank you so much. I must also thank Dr. Chong, Dr. Zenkowski, Dr. Ranjan, Dr. Bully, Dr. Britton, Dr. Jim Townsend, and Dr. Muir, along with Dr. JS, who were all the professors when I was a student. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alago, and thank you for that case study you presented. That clearly shows the power of systems thinking and engineering in solving a real world problem, right? And that affects many, many people. So thank you for that. I will move on now to our final award. This is the Alumni of Influence Award in the graduate category, post-1995. So this was a very difficult decision, and it came down to a tie as we ranked all the candidates and the nominees. And we are presenting this award jointly to Dr. Marcia Friesen and Dr. Danny Mann. So I will introduce them one by one. I earlier shared a little bit of their background, but I'll give you a bit of a fuller biography now. Dr. Danny Mann grew up in Western Manitoba, where he attended school in Roblin and was introduced to the profession of agriculture on the family farm. Danny received his bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering in 1992, his MSc in Biosystems Engineering in 95, and his PhD in Biosystems Engineering in 98. Danny has been a faculty member in the Department of Biosystems Engineering since 1998 and has served as the department head since 2009, where he has overseen significant growth in student numbers. Danny has been heavily involved with curriculum development at the undergraduate level, especially the development of the department's innovative capstone program that spans the final 3 years of the program. This was mentioned by one of our winners just now. And Danny has research expertise in agricultural ergonomics, agricultural safety, and assistive technologies. So Danny has been a member of the Canadian Society for Bioengineering since 1998 and recently completed a 2-year term as its president. Congratulations, Danny. Marcia, Professor Marcia Friesen is the current Dean of the Price Faculty of Engineering and the NSERC Chair in Design Engineering. She received her undergraduate and graduate training in Biosystems Engineering and earning a PhD in 2009. Marcia served as the director of the Internationally Educated Engineering Qualifications Program from 2003 to 2017. She was responsible for leading a team that developed and delivered a qualification recognition pathway for internationally educated engineers. In 2016, Marcia was appointed the director of the Center for Engineering Professional Practice and Engineering Education, where among many other actions, she championed Indigenous engagement in engineering and enhanced participation of women in engineering. A thoughtful leader with a vision for the future, Marcia has been integral in shaping the next generation of engineering students, positively impacting the engineering profession and engineering education at local, national, and international levels. So Danny and Marcia, I invite you to say a few words. Danny, please start us off.
Thanks, Nazem. And I will, I guess, start the similar way as previous recipients in thanking the individual who nominated me. I believe was Dr. Stefan Senkowski, a former professor of mine and for the last number of years colleague who recently retired, as well as the the time that was put in by the committee to make these decisions. As you've heard me speak already today, I'm extremely proud to be an alumni of this department. My career has certainly been shaped by the professors and the support staff that contributed to my education, both at the undergraduate level and then later at the graduate level. Dr. Aligu just mentioned that, you know, he was a PhD student while I was an undergraduate student. He didn't quite fill in all the details on that. I was actually hired one of the summers as a summer student, and I was collecting data for his thesis. So I have a role to play in his PhD thesis as well. And you know, I'm certainly grateful for the opportunity that I've had to play a prominent role in the leadership of this department over the past decade. And I hope to be able to, you know, to help the Biosystems Engineering Department reach even greater heights in the future. And one last little story before I finish. Due to my long connection with the department, I really have little stories about each of the other award recipients, except for Jerry Cousin. I was just barely born at that point. So. But Jerry did mention Garland, and that is a very interesting connection. So Garland was the department head of agricultural engineering for 17 years. And in 1972, my parents bought the Liberty Farm in Roblin. So I grew up in the same house that Garland grew up in. And I've now been department head for 10 years. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to break that 17-year record, but there must have been something in the water in that well in that yard, because of the two of us being in this role for this many years. And Martin Petrak is another interesting story, where I remember when he came to our department. He started out as in an environmental science program, and he found out about our environmental option at the time, and he was just so intrigued that instead of spending all of our time just talking about what the environmental issues were and what the environmental problems were, which was what he was getting in the environmental science program, he was so invigorated and refreshed by the idea that we were talking about environmental solutions, the engineering approach to it. And so, I mean, that's always kind of struck with me. And the big thing that I've about Martin's career as well is that, you know, he was so focused on environmental, and now he's one of the leaders in the biomedical profession in our city. So, you know, I tell students, you know, you might know what you think your interests are, you might end up in a completely different direction. So anyway, I maybe went a little bit off script there, but I just felt I needed to share some of those stories. So thank you very much to for those that are recognize me for this award.
Thanks, Danny. Those are excellent stories and really interesting how things came about there. Marcia, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So I truly don't know who nominated me, but if I do find out, I certainly do want to thank them personally, and I do thank them here for thinking of me and putting that work in. And I congratulate all the other winners as well. And as you've been just sharing a few thoughts, it's been so lovely to hear the names of all those past professors who I certainly have many good memories of as well. If you don't know it already, I encourage you to go on mostly any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and look at Humans of New York, or HONY. Those are small, short, but very moving stories, often of strangers, but sometimes of notorious figures. And this is what Barack Obama said when he was interviewed by Brandon Stanton, the creator of Humans of New York. Barack Obama said, if you're worrying about yourself, if you're thinking, am I succeeding? Am I in the right position? Am I being appreciated? Then you're going to end up feeling frustrated and stuck. But if you can keep it about the work, you'll always have a path. There's always something to be done. And I feel that I've always just looked at what the next opportunity was, where there was a chance to plug in, where there was a chance to do something. And I'm grateful to all the people who opened doors and showed me that there was a path to go through them. And I hope that I can continue to do that, because it's been a very fulfilling career. And I'm grateful for all the people along the way. So I encourage us all to keep it about the work, because there's always something to be done.
Thank you, Marcia. What great closing words. Thank you both again. And with that, I will close today's proceedings. I do want to thank one more time all of the participants in today's sessions, and all of you for joining us here today to help us celebrate this amazing history of our department, to reflect on some of our accomplishments and our distinguished alumni, but also to look at the future of the profession of biosystems engineering education, research, and engineering in general. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy your evening.